What if the reason you can't focus isn't you, but the room you're sitting in? What if your brain fog, low energy, and burnout are being triggered by your lighting, your walls, even the view outside your window? This isn't motivation, it's biology. Your environment is speaking directly to your nervous system every second of the day, and if you don't learn how to control it, it will control you. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you'll discover how to rewire your focus, sharpen your thinking, and unlock your peak performance just by changing what surrounds you. The way the visual system interacts with the brain plays a central role in determining our mental state, cognitive control, and ability to focus. Vision isn't just about seeing objects. It's a direct input channel to how our internal world responds to the external one. When you engage in focused visual attention, like staring at a screen or reading closely, your brain enters a high arousal state. This can be beneficial short-term, but over time, it taxes the nervous system. On the other hand, when your eyes relax and take in wide, panoramic views, the brain shifts into a more relaxed state. This is not just emotional, it is neural. The autonomic nervous system interprets broad visual landscapes as safe, reducing the fight or flight response and promoting rest and digest signals. Environments like forests, beaches, and open skies naturally encourage this panoramic view, helping to calm the mind without effort. The eye's structure evolved to respond differently to visual scope, and modern environments often restrict it. By manipulating what and how we look at our surroundings, we influence our brain's chemistry and performance. This relationship between vision and brain state is so fundamental that it's often overlooked. Focused vision, known as foveal vision, triggers a cascade of neurochemical events tied to stress and alertness. It primes the body for action, which is helpful in short bursts but problematic when constant. This is the state many people live in due to screen exposure and confined visual spaces. By contrast, peripheral vision sends different signals, deactivating areas in the brain linked to stress and effort. Looking at the horizon or taking in a full field of trees and sky instantly creates a neural reset. This is measurable through reductions in heart rate and changes in brainwave patterns. Such moments of visual decompression are critical for restoring focus because the brain can't stay in high alert mode indefinitely without fatigue. When you allow your visual field to expand, you're giving the brain a chance to balance the tension between alertness and calm. This balance is where sustainable attention and cognitive endurance emerge. Natural settings provide the ideal conditions for this kind of neural reset. Open landscapes engage the visual circuits differently than confined indoor spaces. The eyes soften, breathing slows, and mental chatter decreases. When you're looking across a field, lake, or mountain range, your brain is flooded with signals that suggest safety and stability. That feeling of mental clarity you get during a walk outside is not just psychological, it's neurochemical. The relaxation of the visual system initiates the release of acetylcholine and dopamine in balanced levels, supporting both mood and learning. This state primes the brain for better memory encoding, task switching, and creative thinking. Even a few minutes of viewing natural scenery has been shown to improve performance on complex cognitive tasks. The changes are not imagined, they are biological, driven by the same systems that evolved to help humans survive and thrive in their environments. Nature isn't just pleasant, it's performance enhancing. Modern workspaces and city environments unfortunately do the opposite. Most indoor environments restrict peripheral vision and expose us to narrow artificial stimuli. The result is prolonged activation of stress pathways without corresponding recovery. Fluorescent lighting, lack of natural views, and screen-based tasks keep our visual system locked into a mode that was meant for short-term emergencies, not long-term functioning. Over time, this leads to mental exhaustion, anxiety, and reduced cognitive flexibility. Our brains were not designed to operate under these conditions constantly. Without regular exposure to wide-view visuals or breaks from close-up focus, the nervous system becomes overtaxed. You don't just feel more tired, you are functioning at a diminished capacity. The solution lies in intentional regulation of our visual environment. Taking strategic breaks to view distant horizons or stepping outside for a few minutes can recalibrate the system. Small environmental changes yield large mental benefits. Interestingly, even indoor spaces can be optimized to support visual relief and focus restoration. Windows with distant views, artwork that mimics natural landscapes, and even lighting that mimics the changing tones of the day can support visual relaxation. By leveraging design elements that encourage peripheral vision and dynamic eye movement, we can train the brain to move between focused states and restful states with more ease. This rhythm is what allows us to concentrate deeply without burning out. Attention is a finite resource, and its depletion is closely tied to visual strain. The more visually dynamic and supportive the environment, the more cognitive energy we preserve. Instead of thinking about focus as a purely mental discipline, we can begin to view it as a product of physical interaction with space. The orientation of the eyes is a key driver of how the brain processes time, information, and emotional load. Visual relief is not indulgent, it's instrumental to performance. Even brief visual resets have profound effects on brain chemistry. A technique as simple as looking away from a screen every 20 minutes and gazing out a window for 60 seconds can regulate the sympathetic nervous system. This interrupts the cycle of fatigue and sharpens concentration afterward. What's fascinating is that this effect is not dependent on conscious relaxation or meditation. It's purely driven by neural pathways responding to changes in eye positioning and light exposure. This means you don't need a long break to refresh your mind. You need the right kind of visual input. It's not about stopping work, but about embedding recovery into the rhythm of your work. Eyes are a direct channel to the brain's arousal system, and they respond in real time to distance, motion, and brightness. When used strategically, they become tools for cognitive control and emotional regulation. In short, your eyes are your focus regulators, and they respond to nature faster than your thoughts do. In educational and occupational settings, this insight opens up new opportunities for increasing productivity and mental wellness. Students and workers who incorporate visual breaks that engage peripheral vision experience fewer symptoms of burnout and greater task performance. This isn't just behavioral, it's structural. Neurons involved in attention and memory are directly affected by whether the brain perceives the environment as open and safe or closed and threatening. Classrooms and offices that allow natural light and outdoor views see improvements in mood and learning outcomes. When we think about performance, we usually think of internal traits like discipline and grit. But the physical surroundings, especially the visual field, are just as influential. Cognitive endurance is built not only through effort, but through recovery. And the most biologically accessible recovery tool is already built into how your eyes interact with space. Children instinctively seek wide outdoor spaces, not just for play, but for neurological balance. Their developing brains benefit immensely from time in nature, where eye movement is spontaneous and the visual field is constantly shifting. This natural dynamism builds stronger attentional systems over time. Adults often forget this, becoming locked into static environments and limited visual ranges. But the brain retains its plasticity, meaning even later in life, we can retrain our attention through visual exposure. The more we expose ourselves to varied and expansive views, the better our brain learns to regulate focus, stress, and cognitive control. We aren't stuck with the limits imposed by indoor living. Our environment can become a tool for transformation. Awareness of visual habits is the first step, followed by consistent engagement with surroundings that promote panoramic visual experiences. This small change yields compounding cognitive and emotional benefits. The eye is not just a passive organ receiving light, it is an active participant in shaping the internal landscape of the mind. Visual behavior determines whether the brain leans towards stress or calm, clarity or confusion, endurance or depletion. It is a feedback loop. What we look at determines how we feel, and how we feel shapes what we are capable of doing. In natural environments, the loop becomes a positive one, creating momentum toward mental restoration and deeper focus. The right visual input primes the brain to enter its optimal state, where performance is high and the experience is sustainable. Understanding this mechanism empowers us to reclaim control over how we think and feel. By shifting how and where we use our vision throughout the day, we gain access to greater mental clarity, emotional resilience, and overall cognitive vitality. And nature isn't just something to admire. It's a key to unlocking the full capacity of the human brain. The presence of natural light is one of the most powerful yet underutilized tools for enhancing brain function and overall health. Light isn't just something we see, it is information that enters the brain and regulates nearly every biological system. When light hits the retina, it sends direct signals to the brain's central clock, which governs circadian rhythms. These rhythms determine when we feel awake, alert, tired, or sleepy. Exposure to bright, full-spectrum sunlight in the morning increases the production of cortisol at the appropriate time, supporting wakefulness and focus. At the same time, it helps regulate melatonin levels to ensure better sleep at night. Without this early dose of natural light, our internal systems fall out of sync, impairing mental clarity and emotional stability. Artificial lighting lacks the intensity and spectrum needed to fully engage these biological processes. Sunlight, especially in the first hours of the day, is not optional. It is a neural requirement. The importance of light timing cannot be overstated. Morning light exposure serves as a powerful anchor for the body's internal clock, telling the brain and body when to be alert and when to prepare for rest. This precise timing ensures that hormones like dopamine, serotonin, and melatonin are released in rhythm with your daily activity cycle. A delay or absence in light exposure can lead to fatigue, brain fog, irritability, and disrupted sleep patterns. Most people spend their mornings indoors under dim lighting, which fails to trigger the necessary hormonal cascade. Simply stepping outside within 30 to 60 minutes of waking, even on a cloudy day, provides a powerful dose of light that aligns the brain with the day's demands. This is not just a mood booster, it is a structural reset of your biological rhythm. Light isn't just about seeing your environment, it's about shaping how your brain functions across time. Studies have shown that individuals exposed to natural light in the early part of the day have significantly better mood, energy, and cognitive performance throughout the day. This is partly due to the impact light has on neurotransmitter systems in the brain. Dopamine, which plays a central role in motivation, attention, and pleasure, is directly influenced by light entering the eyes. Adequate sunlight exposure leads to more stable dopamine levels, making it easier to maintain focus, experience motivation, and feel emotionally balanced. Light also regulates serotonin, which is associated with feelings of calm, confidence, and emotional well-being. These chemical systems are not purely reactive. They respond to the light environment like instruments in an orchestra. If light is poor or mistimed, the brain's rhythm becomes erratic. When light is consistent and correctly timed, cognition becomes more fluid, attention sharpens, and mood stabilizes. These effects are cumulative, meaning that daily light habits compound into long-term brain health. Sleep quality, which is directly tied to cognition and memory, is also profoundly affected by morning light exposure. Getting sufficient sunlight in the early part of the day triggers a countdown timer in the brain that signals melatonin release roughly 12 to 16 hours later. This natural timer makes it easier to fall asleep, stay asleep, and enter the deeper phases of sleep that are critical for memory consolidation and emotional processing. Without morning light, melatonin production becomes irregular, leading to insomnia or poor sleep efficiency. The solution is not more caffeine or supplements, it's getting outside and letting your biology realign. This also means reducing bright light exposure in the evening, particularly from screens and overhead LEDs, which can confuse the brain and delay melatonin release. Proper light exposure, therefore, bookends the day. Strong, natural light in the morning and dim, warm light in the evening. This simple shift can transform sleep and boost cognitive recovery. The impact of light on productivity is also evident in work environments. Offices and schools with access to natural light see improved focus, reduced errors, and greater overall performance. Light-rich environments support longer attention spans and better problem-solving abilities. This isn't just a psychological effect, it's neurological. The brain uses light cues to determine how much effort it can safely allocate to tasks. In dimly lit spaces, energy levels remain low and mental performance drops. In contrast, well-lit environments that simulate daylight conditions allow the brain to operate at higher cognitive bandwidth. Even small changes like opening blinds, working near a window, or spending breaks outside can dramatically improve mental output. Natural light exposure should be a standard feature in performance optimization, not an afterthought. The structure and brightness of your environment determine how deeply and how long you can focus. There is also evidence that exposure to natural light can reduce the risk of anxiety and depression. The connection between light and mood is mediated by the same brain systems that regulate emotional resilience. When light levels are adequate and properly timed, the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and emotional balance, functions more efficiently. Reduced light exposure, especially in the early part of the day, has been linked to decreased activity in these brain regions, which correlates with symptoms of low mood and emotional dysregulation. Sunlight acts as a natural antidepressant, stimulating the release of chemicals that support mental health without the side effects of pharmaceuticals. Seasonal. Affective disorder, SAD, is a clear example of how light deficiency can impair mood and cognition. But even outside of clinical conditions, everyday fluctuations in light exposure influence how we feel and think. Prioritizing natural light is a daily act of mental self-care. For those who live in regions with limited sunlight, especially during winter months, bright light therapy can mimic some of the benefits of natural light. These devices emit full-spectrum light at intensities of 10,000 lux or more, simulating morning sunlight when used early in the day. While not a complete replacement, they can help maintain circadian rhythm integrity and support mood regulation when sunlight is scarce. However, the most effective method remains real sunlight exposure, particularly because it involves a full range of light frequencies, including ultraviolet and infrared components that support vitamin D synthesis and skin-brain signaling. The body is a complex system designed to interact with natural elements, and light is one of the most fundamental. Wherever possible, real-world exposure to natural light should be prioritized. Even short outdoor walks or working near large windows can deliver measurable improvements in mental and physical health. Athletic performance and recovery are also enhanced by proper light exposure. Natural light helps regulate testosterone and estrogen, hormones essential for physical vitality and resilience. These hormones influence not only strength and endurance, but also brain function, particularly in areas related to confidence, motivation, and competitiveness. Athletes who receive more sunlight tend to have better energy balance, faster recovery, and more stable moods. This is especially relevant for cognitive aspects of training, such as focus, learning new skills, and adapting to stress. Sunlight supports the optimal functioning of these systems in a way that no synthetic stimulus can. It restores energy at a cellular level through mitochondrial activation and supports muscle-brain coordination through hormona. Well, balance. In essence, proper light hygiene is as critical as sleep, nutrition, and training when it comes to peak performance. What makes light so unique as a tool for brain optimization is that it's passive. Your body knows what to do with it. You don't have to think about absorbing light, interpreting it, or mentally process it. Your eyes and skin detect it automatically, and your brain responds in predictable, beneficial ways. That makes it one of the most low-effort, high-return behaviors you can engage in. No supplements, no special equipment, just stepping outside and allowing the body to reconnect with what it evolved for. The light rhythms of the sun have been guiding human biology for thousands of years, and the brain is still wired to respond to them with precision. Reestablishing that connection is not just about health, it's about performance, clarity, and cognitive sustainability. Your focus, mood, and energy are not just internal, they are reflections of your relationship with your environment, especially the light that surrounds you. In a world of screens and artificial light, reclaiming access to natural light is both a necessity and an advantage. It's not just about avoiding negative effects, it's about tapping into the brain's full capacity. The consistency of early morning light exposure sets the tone for every system in the body, from how clearly you think to how well you sleep. Light is information. It tells your brain when to wake up, when to rest, when to push, and when to recover. It is a silent coach shaping every peak and valley of your mental performance throughout the day. When we ignore light, we fall out of rhythm with our potential. When we align with it, we unlock deeper focus, sharper thinking, better memory, and greater emotional control. This isn't wellness advice. It's biological truth backed by physiology. Light, especially natural light. Morning light is the signal that sets your brain up to win. Spending time in nature does more than refresh your mood. It activates key systems in the brain that support learning, emotional regulation, and mental recovery. When you immerse yourself in natural environments, the brain transitions into a state that favors cognitive restoration. This shift isn't just psychological, it's measurable in brain activity. Areas of the brain associated with executive function, like the prefrontal cortex, begin to operate more efficiently. At the same time, regions tied to stress and internal distraction, such as the default mode network, become less active. This creates a window for improved attention, memory, and creativity. Being in nature helps the brain break free from overthinking and multitasking, two patterns that lead to mental fatigue. You become more present, more focused, and more capable of deep thought without force. The brain returns to a natural rhythm that supports growth, balance, and performance. The sensory input found in nature plays a critical role in this process. The sights, sounds, and textures of a forest, beach, or meadow engage the senses in a gentle, rhythmic way that calms the nervous system. This form of sensory processing reduces the mental load on the brain and promotes a state of relaxed alertness. Instead of being overstimulated by artificial lights, loud noises, and digital interruptions, the mind settles into a restorative mode. Breathing becomes slower, heart rate stabilizes, and cortisol, the primary stress hormone, drops naturally. These physiological changes feed back into the brain, signaling safety and allowing for improved emotional control. It becomes easier to regulate frustration, think clearly, and make thoughtful decisions. Nature delivers a kind of low-frequency stimulation that doesn't overwhelm, but instead recalibrates the entire system. This gives the brain space to rest and reorganize without the need for sleep or inactivity. One of the most powerful effects of nature is its ability to trigger brain plasticity. This is the brain's capacity to change and adapt in response to new experiences. When you're in nature, especially while walking or moving, the brain releases neurochemicals that support the formation of new connections. These include brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which strengthens neural pathways associated with learning and memory. At the same time, the reduction in stress-related hormones allows for greater access to the frontal lobes, where planning, creativity, and logical thinking occur. This means you not only feel calmer in nature, you actually think more effectively. You're able to generate new ideas, solve complex problems, and retain information more efficiently. This plasticity also supports emotional learning, helping the brain adapt to past challenges and build new patterns of resilience. Nature creates a learning environment tailored for the brain's optimal function. Movement in nature enhances these effects even further. Walking through natural environments activates the vestibular and proprioceptive systems, which are essential for spatial awareness and cognitive mapping. As your body engages with the terrain, your brain becomes more synchronized across multiple regions. This is especially useful for integrating memory and strengthening executive control. Unlike treadmill walking or gym routines, movement in nature offers variable stimulation, different textures, elevations, and visual scenes, which keeps the brain more engaged. This dynamic engagement fuels attentional circuits and builds mental endurance. Over time, regular movement in nature becomes a powerful practice for boosting both physical and cognitive health. It sharpens the senses, tunes the brain to the present moment, and builds internal clarity. The combination of physical activity and natural immersion produces a neurobiological state that's ideal for sustained mental effort and emotional regulation. In contrast, environments filled with artificial stimuli place heavy demands on the brain's attentional systems. The need to constantly filter noise, digital alerts, and visual clutter leads to cognitive overload. This drains the brain's energy and reduces its capacity for focus and emotional control. Nature offers a break from this bombardment. It engages what's known as soft fascination, a type of attention that's effortless and renewing. Soft fascination allows the brain to rest without becoming bored or detached. It provides just enough stimulation to keep the mind occupied while still allowing space for internal recovery. As a result, the brain rebuilds its ability to sustain focus, suppress distractions, and regulate emotional responses. This type of attention restoration is difficult to achieve in urban settings, where the mind is constantly pulled in different directions. Nature acts as a mental reset button, clearing the clutter and re-establishing mental clarity. The restorative effects of nature extend to social and emotional processing. Studies show that time spent in natural environments increases feelings of empathy, cooperation, and connection to others. This is partly due to the reduction in stress and partly due to the activation of brain networks involved in social bonding. When stress levels fall, the brain is more capable of interpreting emotional cues, showing compassion, and building trust. Nature allows individuals to reflect, recalibrate, and reconnect with themselves and others. These moments of connection support emotional intelligence, which in turn improves leadership, communication, and conflict resolution. This is why people often report feeling more grounded, open, and emotionally balanced after spending time in nature. The brain's social circuitry becomes more efficient, allowing for clearer thinking and more genuine interaction. Nature doesn't just calm the mind, it strengthens the core networks that allow humans to thrive in social environments. Children and adolescents are particularly sensitive to these effects. Exposure to green spaces has been shown to improve concentration, reduce impulsivity, and support academic performance in young people. The developing brain is especially responsive to environmental input, and natural surroundings provide the kind of rich, multisensory experience that supports healthy growth. Even brief contact with nature, such as recess in a grassy field or walking home through a tree-lined path, can improve behavior and learning outcomes. These environments support not only intellectual development, but also emotional resilience. Young people who spend time in nature are better able to manage stress, control anger, and navigate social relationships. The benefits carry into adulthood, creating a foundation for stronger mental and emotional health later in life. Access to nature is not just beneficial, it is essential for the development of a well-regulated, high-functioning brain. The brain's relationship with nature also includes a rhythmic, almost meditative element. The repetitive sounds of wind, water, and birdsong entrain the brain to slower wave patterns, especially alpha and theta frequencies. These brainwaves are associated with relaxed awareness, creative thinking, and introspection. In this state, the brain is less reactive and more reflective, allowing for deeper insight and emotional processing. This makes nature an ideal setting for thinking through challenges, recovering from emotional events, and accessing intuition. Many people report breakthrough ideas or sudden clarity while walking in the woods or sitting near water. These moments are not random. They result from the brain's shift into a state where it can access more integrated and balanced thought processes. The natural world serves as a mirror, reflecting back clarity and coherence that's hard to find in overstimulated environments. This internal stillness fuels external performance. Regular exposure to nature creates a feedback loop of health and cognitive optimization. As the brain becomes more regulated, it supports better sleep, more effective decision-making, and a stronger ability to manage stress. In turn, these improvements free up more mental energy for creativity, problem-solving, and connection. It's a cycle that builds momentum with consistency. You don't need to live in a forest or hike mountains daily to benefit. Even city dwellers who make time to visit parks, walk near water, or sit under trees experience these gains. The key is not in the intensity, but in the regularity and intention behind these moments. The more the brain learns to associate nature with safety and recovery, the more quickly it shifts into a high-functioning, low-stress state. This adaptability is what allows us to perform at our best, mentally, emotionally, and physically, while staying grounded and resilient. The natural world holds the architecture that our brains evolved to thrive within. In those spaces, neural systems align, stress responses settle, and higher cognition awakens. Nature provides the sensory inputs, spatial dynamics, and biological rhythms that the brain needs to maintain balance and excel. It is not an escape from reality. It is a return to the conditions in which human cognition was meant to operate. When used intentionally, nature becomes a tool for building stronger focus, deeper insight, and lasting emotional strength. It is a living environment that does what no app or medication can do. It restores. And through that restoration, the brain rediscovers its capacity to grow, connect, and lead. Nature isn't just scenery, it's strategy. A strategy for unlocking the best version of your brain, one step, breath, and moment at a time. The spaces we inhabit are not passive backgrounds. They actively shape how we think, feel, and perform. Physical E. Environments interact with the nervous system to either calm it or heighten it, making the design and atmosphere of a space crucial for mental well-being. When you're in a chaotic, noisy, or visually cluttered environment, your brain must constantly assess for threats, distractions, and disorganization. This overstimulates the amygdala and drives up stress hormones like cortisol. Over time, this weakens attention span, impairs memory, and increases emotional reactivity. In contrast, environments that are clean, open, and predictably structured reduce the load on cognitive and emotional systems. This gives the brain a chance to enter a state of focus and clarity. Every element of your surroundings, light, noise, color, layout, communicates with your physiology. Whether you realize it or not, your brain is interpreting the message and responding accordingly. Indoor spaces that lack natural elements often contribute to mental fatigue and physical tension. Harsh lighting, poor air circulation, and confined spaces stimulate alertness pathways in the brain and keep the body on edge. This state of low-grade arousal may not feel like acute stress, but it slowly drains energy and disrupts hormonal balance. The body produces more adrenaline and cortisol while reducing the release of calming neurotransmitters like serotonin and GABA. The result is a state of restlessness that makes deep work difficult and emotional regulation harder. In these settings, the brain struggles to enter the parasympathetic state, which is necessary for reflection, problem-solving, and decision-making. Environments filled with synthetic materials, background noise, and inconsistent lighting disrupt the very systems that support attention and focus. They force the brain into survival mode, limiting creativity and long-term thinking. Without environmental awareness, the architecture of the mind is compromised. Said by the architecture of the room. Well-designed environments, on the other hand, act as a scaffold for the nervous system. Spaces that incorporate natural textures, controlled lighting, and ergonomic layouts support neural efficiency. They promote balanced hormone levels, optimize neurotransmitter function, and allow for higher quality thought processes. Wood, stone, and other organic materials offer sensory feedback that feels grounding and familiar to the brain. These cues signal safety and support emotional regulation, allowing the mind to stay open and receptive. Soft, indirect lighting helps stabilize circadian rhythms and reduces strain on the visual system, making it easier to sustain attention over time. In these supportive environments, the prefrontal cortex, the brain's control center for focus and planning, functions more effectively. The result is a mental state marked by composure, productivity, and clarity. The space around you becomes a silent collaborator in your cognitive performance. You don't work harder. You work in harmony with your environment. Air quality and scent also play subtle yet powerful roles in shaping brain function. Poor ventilation and stagnant air can lead to a buildup of carbon dioxide and other pollutants, which reduces oxygen availability to the brain. This impairs concentration, slows reaction time, and contributes to mental fatigue. Conversely, environments with fresh air or well-filtered systems promote oxygen flow and neural activity. Certain natural scents, such as pine, citrus, or lavender, can further enhance this by activating olfactory pathways tied to memory, calm, and alertness. The olfactory bulb connects directly to the limbic system, which governs emotion and memory, making scent one of the most direct environmental influencers of mood and cognition. Integrating nature-derived scents into living or working spaces is not about luxury, it's a strategic wabos. To support mental resilience. Breathing in a clean, pleasant-smelling environment shifts physiology toward balance and makes complex thought more accessible. Soundscapes are another dimension of the environment that deeply impact focus and cognitive endurance. Constant noise, especially unpredictable, high-pitched, or mechanical sounds, keeps the nervous system in a low-grade state of hypervigilance. The auditory cortex, which processes sound, is closely linked to areas of the brain responsible for stress and attention. In noisy environments, your brain constantly reallocates resources to monitor the noise, even if you're not consciously aware of it. This leaves fewer resources for concentration, memory, and creative thinking. On the flip side, environments that include calming, rhythmic, or natural sounds help entrain the brain into patterns of calm focus. The rustle of leaves, the hum of rain, or the gentle flow of water can increase alpha wave activity, promoting a state of relaxed alertness ideal for problem solving. The strategic use of sound in an environment isn't background detail. It is a neurologically active variable that influences how long and how well you can think. Temperature and spatial configuration also influence neurochemistry and behavior. Environments that are too hot, cold, or physically constrained activate discomfort pathways and interfere with executive functioning. The brain must divert attention to regulate body temperature or adjust posture, taking away from cognitive tasks. When a space is well ventilated, appropriately spaced, and comfortable in temperature, it reduces physiological friction. The brain can then dedicate more energy to mental tasks instead of managing discomfort. Spacious layouts also create a sense of psychological openness, making the mind more receptive to new ideas and less reactive to uncertainty. Crowded or tight, environments may increase irritability and impulsivity, while open, minimalistic spaces support calm and deliberate thinking. The brain craves a degree of spaciousness to function at its peak. Environmental comfort is not about luxury. It's about reducing barriers to optimal cognition and behavior. A well-arranged space acts like a tuning fork for the nervous system. Hormonal systems respond immediately to environmental cues. Testosterone and estrogen, which influence motivation, confidence, emotional balance, and decision-making, are sensitive to environmental stress. Overexposure to chaotic or noisy spaces can suppress the optimal expression of these hormones. The result is decreased assertiveness, reduced emotional resilience, and less effective leadership behavior. Environments that promote a sense of safety and order help stabilize hormonal levels and keep performance consistent. Even short periods in a balanced space can help recalibrate these systems and restore mental clarity. This hormonal regulation plays a major role in interpersonal dynamics as well. Stable hormone levels contribute to better communication, empathy, and adaptability. Your environment doesn't just affect you in isolation, it changes how you show up in social and professional relationships. A supportive space elevates every aspect of your interaction with others. It gives you access to the best version of yourself. Daily exposure to well-regulated environments improves long-term brain structure and function. The hippocampus, a brain region involved in memory and learning, responds positively to calm, enriched environments. It grows in volume and becomes more efficient when surrounded by order and sensory richness. In contrast, stressful, noisy, or chaotic settings have been shown to reduce hippocampal volume over time, which can lead to cognitive decline and emotional dysregulation. Neural pathways involved in attention, self-control, and emotional processing are all shaped by repeated exposure to physical space. This means your environment is literally rewiring your brain every day. By curating spaces that promote calm, order, and sensory balance, you build a brain that is sharper, more resilient, and more adaptable. The effects aren't short-lived. They accumulate over time into a more robust and flexible mental system. You are constantly becoming a product of your surroundings, for better or worse. Even small shifts in your physical environment can lead to significant mental gains. Rearranging furniture to reduce visual clutter, introducing natural elements like plants, using warmer lighting in the evenings, and minimizing digital noise are all steps that support neurological harmony. These changes don't require large investments, but they do require intentionality. The goal is to create spaces that work with your biology instead of against it. A room is not just a place, it's a stimulus. Every detail is either helping or hindering your ability to think clearly, stay regulated, and make decisions. This perspective transforms how you approach home, work, and public spaces. You begin to see each room as an opportunity to upgrade your mental performance and emotional resilience. Environmental design becomes a form of self-leadership. You aren't just shaping your space, you're shaping your brain. Ultimately, the physical world around you holds immense power over your inner world. The shape, sound, scent, and energy of a room all communicate directly with your nervous system. When the space supports calm and clarity, the mind mirrors that pattern and steps into its highest function. When the space creates friction, the brain tightens and constricts, limiting what you're capable of. Environmental awareness is cognitive empowerment. By becoming intentional with the environments you inhabit, you gain a new tool for transformation, not through force, but through alignment. You don't have to push harder when your space is pulling you forward. You don't have to fight for focus when your environment is working for you. The mind doesn't operate in isolation. It is always in conversation with the space it occupies. And when that conversation is harmonious, everything changes.